assuming that this thing is recording. That's the first time I've went direct through YouTube to record something. So, but I'm gonna try it. I just did a video that bro Mark turned me on to. The name of it is Ellen and the Sign in Egypt Connection Must See. I did fall asleep to a few minutes in the middle, but I think I got most of the gist of the vid. It seems to be a big thing, the tetrahedra shape, which I guess a lot of people goes off into those signs, and you don't have to look very long into Kabbalism and mystery mystery religions and arts and so forth before you do run into these shapes. So they are very spiritual significance to most all these shapes. Now, one point that this guy was making, because it's a tetrahedral, which is very similar to the pyramids in Egypt, that there, and he quotes a phrase that if he goes to the root of the words, which is change what King James Version did, which I don't have a problem with because I don't really trust King James Version a whole hell of a lot these days anyway. But if you change the words that King James's team chose to represent that phrase, it reads something along the lines of, and there was a sign in Egypt, a monument that is like the sign of the sign that's going to come in the sky, and there's going to be a snatching away of people, which he's leaning toward a modern day rapture scenario, which hell, every time you turn around there's another rapture scenario coming down the pike. But my thought when that hit me, which is at the latter part of that video, the thought that hit me was what about all the poor bastards before the tetrahedra shape has showed up? It's like to say the system that God has as being in the spirit all of a sudden is not good enough. Now we need a physical uh, thing that we see for the God system as we know it to work, to come, like somehow make the whole thing gel or make the whole thing culminate together to get us to salvation. Now, as far as I know, and from what I've gathered, my life is seeking Jesus Christ, is I don't think we really need a big sign in the sky to make the whole thing culminate, gel together. In fact, it even says that, if I remember correctly, it's something about it's a wicked generation that looks for a sign. As in, to have to wait on this sign to suggest that something's going to happen or culminate, it leaves to be suggested that God's plan is an unfinished thing that has to be completed through this sign. And to me, I don't get that. I don't think that that this sign, Elenin, is something that has to finish. I think God's plan of salvation was finished long, long ago. I think the only thing that's not finished in God's plan of salvation is the unwilling participants in that plan. I think people are, kicking against the prick. They do not want to get on board with God's plan of salvation because they rather trust self. And then here we are with a dude that's doing this video that he's trusting his eyes, what he knows, what he's figured out, the words that he's derived to from the root of the words of the Bible, to change it to say what he wants it to say, or what he's at least getting it to say. So, that being said, I don't put a lot of faith in this video. Now, that being said, let's say this thing does show up with a tetrahedron cloud around it, which for those of you who don't know, didn't watch the video, tetrahedra is it's a three-sided pyramid. Let's say as the thing gets in within the sight of our scopes, we start to notice that sure as hell there's the tetrahedra around it, and it's some type of energy slash force field, whatever. And then everything he says really starts to make sense. Well, to that I have to say, we know there's a strong delusion coming. And we also know that the ones that's been put in the pyramid, the so-called sign that ties in with this tetrahedra sign, ain't really been champions of Jesus Christ, have they? They've been champions of secrecy. They've been champions of hidden powers. They've been champions of keeping the masses in the dark. They've been champions of having an elitist club that you ain't in. Of course, I'm talking about the Illuminati and the ones that go by the pyramids. Why it's on the back of the dollar. You know, that hidden group. Christianity, man, was never really hidden. It was never really for the elite. Christianity, matter of fact, the Bible talks about if you got a light, don't be sticking it up under your bed for where it can't be seen, but put that thing where it can be seen. So to me, my point is, if we see the tetrahedra come out of this Ellen thing, and it starts to tie in, and all this spiritualness starts to reconnect with that pyramid in Egypt, just keep in mind that it wasn't God's people that were running Egypt. It was God's people that were a slave in Egypt. They only went there for refuge a short while, and even that was started off by an act of slavery, as in when they took Joseph and beat him up, put him in that pit, and sold him into slavery. He didn't go to Egypt as a sign of freedom. He went there as a sign of slavery. So if my point is, if we start to see Elenin take this shape of really melding and culminating with the pyramid, and when he's saying that it's Jesus Christ coming in this tetrahedra, coming to rapture and save people, what I'm saying is my first thought goes to, it ain't Jesus Christ, but it's the one who wants us to believe he's Jesus Christ. I've asked this question years ago, just like Star Trek did years ago. Why does God need a ship? And I think the truth is that answer is only the hands of God need ships. Only physical things to perform a physical task is what was needed. But God is a spirit, and when we leave this flesh, we're entering a spirit. We're leaving the flesh behind. So do we really need a flesh Jesus Christ at that point? I think we had the flesh Jesus Christ, and he's fulfilled what he's going to do. I think where Jesus is now is a spiritual state. I think God's in a spiritual state, and I think if we're really trying to get to him, we're trying to get to a spiritual state. I think it's the flesh in us that wants to go and save our flesh, the ass of our flesh. He wants us to jump on the ship. He wants us to agree with who and whatever power comes down the pike saying, I can save your ass. But I think we really have to think about that. Because, there's been millions of people on this earth looking up to Christ, crying to him, praying to him, accepting him. And they didn't have no ship. They didn't have no tetrahedra coming from the far side of the universe or stuff like that to save them. It was the thought and belief in Jesus Christ. And it was the giving of yourself to that vibration. I've said this for years, man. I'm saying it still. Let faith be your ship. Don't let some other ship be your ship out of here. Your faith in Jesus Christ is your ship. Okay, just some things I wanted to say after that video. I'm going to make this a YouTube, and I'm going to put it after the video I just posted. And I hope you hear what I'm saying and know where I'm coming from. Okay, people of Earth. Ta-ta.